If you pronounce Goku's name Goku, you're a dirty, English-speaking barbarian because his name should actually be pronounced Goku. However, if you've watched my previous videos, you may have noticed that I pronounced Goku's name Goku, even though I speak Japanese. So why am I mispronouncing Goku's name as well? That's what I want to talk about on this edition of Dragon Ball Dictionary. Hey guys, Tony here, and just a heads up, I'm not going to be doing much editing for this video because I'm rushing to get this video done before I head off to Japan. If you want to learn more about why I'm going to Japan, well, you can watch one of my previous videos in which I explain everything. But basically, I'm going over there to walk across a portion of the country. Check out the video to learn more. All right, so let's talk about Goku's name. So Goku's name is pronounced Goku in Japanese.
Son Goku.
There's two key points that I want to highlight here. First of all, there's the go part. It's not go, you don't round your lips like go, it's just go. And then the second part has an elongated vowel, so it's not ku, it's ku-u. Put that together and you get ku. Yet again here, you don't round your lips. Again, it's not ku, it's ku. And so put those two parts together and you get Goku. However, in the English-speaking world, most people call him Goku.
Hey, it's me, Goku!
And that's totally understandable because when a native speaker sees G and O together, they're likely to pronounce it as go. And also, there's no elongated syllables like there are in Japanese in English, so all we get is a K and a U, so Goku. That's how it works in English. Now, some people say that you should pronounce it Goku or something like that. And, well, that's still wrong because, like I said, you don't round that first go part and you don't round the second part either. Ku, it's not exactly the same. Yes, you could argue that it's closer to the original Japanese, and that's fine. If you want to pronounce it that way, go right ahead. It's really not a big deal. But strictly speaking, if it's not Goku, then it's wrong. It's a mispronunciation. But here's the thing, and I know I've said this in other videos in my Dragon Ball Dictionary series, when you bring over a name or a term from another language into English, you're almost inevitably gonna get some changes. For example, with Mandarin or Cantonese, you lose the tone when you bring it over into English. That is very easy to understand. With Japanese, for example, we're talking about that elongated vowel sound. You lose that for the most part, and then these vowels may not always match up exactly. And so most people end up pronouncing Goku as Goku. Now, is it a mispronunciation? Technically speaking, I guess you could say it's a mispronunciation, but in the world of language and linguistics, when a quote-unquote mistake becomes, let's just say, widespread enough, it reaches critical mass, then that becomes something that is acceptable. In fact, sometimes it becomes the new norm. And we see that happen all the time with slang. Oftentimes, slang starts as something that is quote-unquote incorrect or wrong, but then it eventually becomes so common that it just becomes part of the language. For example, literally, in the past 10 or, I don't know, maybe 15 years, there's been more and more people using literally to describe things that didn't actually happen. They're basically just using it like they use really as an intensifier. But also, really, well, if you think about it, that originally meant truly, right? So they're using it in that same kind of quote-unquote incorrect way. Well, not everybody, but in some situations, right? So really, literally, these are just intensifiers. They're basically a different way of saying very. But when you really look at how they used to be used, well, then oftentimes people use them incorrectly. Like, I literally ate so much that I exploded. Like, none of that was literally, right? That's all an exaggeration. Literally was just being used there to intensify, to exaggerate the sentence. But I'm sure you've heard plenty of people use literally in that way. And that's just how language works, right? Oftentimes it can annoy us and we go like, no, that's incorrect. But when you really look at how many people are using it, how often people are using these words, these pronunciations, you come to realize that they're really, really widespread and maybe you are in the minority. In the case of Goku, well, the Goku pronunciation is the most widely used pronunciation by far within the English-speaking world. Yeah, there's some people that insist on Goku or something kind of like Goku, but most English speakers use Goku. The English dub uses Goku. It's reached a point of critical mass where, to me, Goku is totally acceptable. In fact, when I'm speaking in English about Dragon Ball, when I'm making these videos, I exclusively use Goku because I'm speaking English. I am totally fine with the Goku pronunciation. But, as I said earlier, I do speak Japanese, so sometimes when I'm speaking with a Japanese speaker about Dragon Ball and I have to say Goku's name, I say Son Goku. I don't say Son Goku because that would sound really cringe in Japanese, and I can pronounce Japanese pretty well, so I'm not gonna put on a weird English speaker accent for no reason. And I think that this applies to a term like Saiyan as well, right? Saiyan has reached that critical mass. I did an entire video about Saiyan. Check it out if you haven't already. But basically the short story is, yeah, it should be Saiyan, but Saiyan, again, has reached that critical mass where that is the most common, widespread, widely accepted, and official English pronunciation, right? In the English-speaking world, that is what most people use. And, well, yeah, Saiyan is acceptable, but you can definitely say that Saiyan has become correct because it's just so widespread. That's language. The only reason English is the way it is right now is because most of us agree to speak it in this way. In 100 years, in 200 years, there will be difference. Hell, in 5 years, language will be different. Language just keeps on changing, and there's nothing we can do about it. And that's kind of the fun thing about language. So, again, whether you want to use Goku or something in between, whatever, it's completely up to you, but it also does depend a little bit on the situation that you're in. Maybe if you just met somebody and you start talking about Dragon Ball and then you start whipping out the Goku and the Goku and the Goku, it might come off as a little bit pretentious, so be aware of that. But otherwise, I don't know. I'm just sticking with Goku when I'm speaking in English. I really don't think there's a need to shoehorn in the most Japanese pronunciation that you can muster when you're speaking English. Now, when it comes to other words, other terms that are not as widely used and, widely known even outside of the Dragon Ball fandom, I am more prone to using the Japanese pronunciation because I think that it hasn't quite reached that critical mass. And also, I've watched more of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z in Japanese than in English. So for me, some of these terms are just ingrained in Japanese. I've talked about some of these terms. I don't really like them too much, at least some of them. I think they definitely could have been localized better. So there's also that going on. But Goku, that's how I'm going to keep on pronouncing it in these videos. And, well, that's why I mispronounce it. But every once in a while, I might throw in a Goku just to generate some engagement, just to get some people a little upset and angry in the comments. And actually, that is kind of what I do with anime. I generally, at least in these videos, I say it anime. I don't say anime. But when I'm just speaking to my friends and to just normal people, I often do say anime because, I don't know, I think it's just become English at this point. I think it's totally fine to use the pronunciation anime. But in these videos, I've noticed there are some people that don't like anime. So I like to throw that into my videos. And usually, at least one person comments, "Why are you saying it that way?" And it always helps, get some people to react in the comments. So Anyway, let me know what pronunciation you use. And also, do you say anime or anime? Drop me a comment down below, leave me a like, and subscribe. I will be doing more of my usual edited content very soon, within the next few weeks. Again, I am in Japan when this video comes out. I will be coming back in the next few weeks, and then I'll get back to the usual schedule of putting out the edited videos, the fancier, more scripted videos. But anyway, hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you in the next one.